Hi. Bit of a discussion on various topics today. So much so that I don't think the video can have a more adequate title than just discussion. I was quite surprised. The bad habits video had quite a lot of comments. Some interesting stuff out of that. And I think that one's still going to be a topic of discussion. I might do a follow-up on that one. The one point that I thought is worth sort of talking about slightly is the difference between a collector and not a collector, and how that plays into stash size. Because part of the thing is, well, you know, I've got a lot of models and I won't need to buy them later. I've sort of collected them up front in a sense, which is pretty much part of what I'm doing. If I find good bargains or if I find good topics, I'll buy them, even though I didn't plan on building them this year. If you're a collector, it doesn't matter. There's no number. That's your hobby. You're collecting models, so no big deal. There was a guy in my previous club with about 1,000 models, and he may have built on occasion, but that wasn't what he was about. He just enjoyed the collecting aspect of it. If you're not a collector, then my thought would be that two things. How much lifespan have you got? So how many are you building a year? If you're doing fairly well at about 10 a year, and how many years do you estimate you're going to be building models for? And project that out onto your stash size. It'll give you an idea of how much of your stash really isn't going to get touched, other than you like looking at it. Or you like the fact that you have the choice. When you're looking for your next topic, or even while you're building your current one, you just go and browse something and pull out this model and that model. And that's okay, but when it's excess in that you've lost interest in some of the topics, or, you know, for whatever reasons, you've just now got this huge number that you just need to move on, then I'd say, well, there was your guideline. There was a number at which you were happy, you didn't want to get rid of any of them, and anything beyond that is what you want to get rid of. I've got quite a number that I need to get rid of, and have got rid of quite a lot already in the past year. Oh, just some feedback. Now I know this is sort of the ship modeling related, but I'll just add it in here. So I was talking about this ship model and what it was, and whether it was Korean or Chinese. So it turns out it is in fact Chinese. It's a Chinese packaged kit made in China, but it's the Harvey. So that is the Baltimore Clipper Harvey, as Artesania Latina released a very nice kit of that one. So it looks like they've sort of used that as a bit of a guideline to make a tiny laser cut replica. So quite nice. I'm glad I found out what that was. And somebody pointed out there was a build online, so I found that. So I've got a little bit of guidance for when I get to that one. Okay. Let's get this out the way. Sorry. I was also talking at a stage in the motorcycle video about this, why this was different. That isn't the Fujimi logo that I know, and I was wondering if this was some offshoot. Now, I don't know why this is, but it looks like they have changed their logo. This is in fact their new Fujimi logo. They may have had a change of ownership. I haven't investigated. So, right. So this is supposed to be mainstream Fujimi, for what I can gather. From what I can gather, very nice art, box art. But as I've discovered as I've been working on that kit a little bit, and I will do a specific video on that, The plastic is very hard. So they've done weird things with how they're presenting the structure of what's attached to what very unconventional for a motorbike build. But I'm doing it nonetheless. I like that CB 1300, and I'm open to doing an assembly where the normal assembly process is different. I won't say I like this at all, then I won't buy another one. I'm pointing at the wrong thing. I won't do another one if I've looked at the parts and they look like that one. But another odd thing is a manufacturer doesn't normally change its plastic hardness. And this is a very hard plastic, almost double. So I'm not sure what's going on there, slightly weird. I wanted to talk about newest kits. Now, one thing I don't do is keep up with newest kit releases, except in one area, and that is the Tamiya bikes. And when I say I keep up with them, it's not like I rush out to go and buy it at the first opportunity, but I'm aware of what they release. I'm looking forward to any new build. But I want to show you this. So this is inside the box, and it's the only kit that I've seen that has this. Now, this is a 30th anniversary edition of the Fireblade, and I don't know if that's the only reason that this is present in the kit, but what an awesome little extra page to supply in any kit, I think. You know, just a bunch of reference photos of the actual model. Now, I know we all do our own independent research, and we've got the internet, and we buy books these days, and all sorts of things like that. But, you know, surely the cost of adding a page like that is not out of proportion. So I like it when I see something that a manufacturer is now doing, which is just the next step in quality. And I like that, and I hope that is in fact the next step in quality. This beautiful full color single or multi-page brochure with photos of the actual item. I mean, how nice for an aircraft if they went to a museum, got photos, and provided that in a pamphlet for each aircraft, for each model. Tanks include whatever, all included. So if I'm not keeping up with new kits, how do I actually approach my model building? And I'm somewhat of a random chance modeler. What comes across my path, I will look at and decide. So if people are selling models at the local club, I might just grab some, even though I hadn't thought of that topic before, or I have thought of the topic, but I think, well, I could do another one in a certain color scheme, or whatever the case. And over the years, I've come to model just about every topic that's available in every scale. Of course, I have my preferences. There are scales and topics that I don't touch all that often, but I don't rule them out either. So obviously, aircraft is my favorite. I love the motorbikes, but aircraft is far easier, and it's in a sense more rewarding. It's nice to assemble an airframe, but I'm completely open to obtaining a kit that is really, really very old, and I will on occasion build these frog kits, and as such, or even this, which I don't think I like in general. I rule out the Eastern Bloc manufacturers almost as a rule, but here and there, if I've looked inside the box and I think, well, I'm willing to try that. I don't know the accuracy of the thing yet, but I'm willing to try it. But since I've been modeling for so long, my expectation is in accordance with each kit that I'm looking at. So if I grab this, which is a really old kit, I'm not going to be disappointed with the aspects of this kit, because I already know what I'm getting with old Airfix. and I can adjust to build and enjoy and challenge my construction, ensure that I'm getting great joins, ensure that my fit is perfect on older kits. You don't really have to do that on Tamiya, and a lot of people ask, why waste your effort? Why? You could be just choosing the best that's available at the time, and that's okay. A lot of modelers do that. I've got a guy in our club that he will only build the best available, and he builds absolutely beautiful work. That's great. When I build those kits, then my kits are in accordance with, great Tamiya quality, or a model that I'm happy that I built. I'm happy to hang it on my ceiling if it's a larger one, and I enjoyed the build, and I'm okay with its shortcomings. I'm quite opposed to this sort of thing. And when I refer to this sort of thing, I mean that when I open a kit and the sprue is so thick, and I mean, you can just immediately tell that this is really not good. This is of the lowest quality kits possible. But I do really like the Kamov 26 Hoodlum. Some nice videos online of this thing starting up. A very, very interesting helicopter. So I know that when I take this on, this is more of a challenge than any of the other kits I have around. Probably going to drain my energy a bit doing that, but I'm okay. I'm okay with having the odd one like that. This Blériot didn't look as appalling as what one might expect, but in general, I'm just not looking at Eastern Bloc manufacturers. I think, honestly, if I had to add up all of those that are from these certain I mean, there's about 10 manufacturers that I'm referring to. I won't name them all. I don't think I have even 10 kits. Probably less than 5 even. But even some better manufacturers do leave me a little bit disappointed at times, and this is one of those models that I really love, the Dornier 24, and I was doing so well on this. This is really old till it sort of got abandoned. Now when I say abandoned, not abandoned to throw away, not abandoned to chuck out, but the thing about this kit, and it's not like you were oblivious to it at first, is that it has surface texture, and I don't know if that is going to, yes, you can slightly see it in the light there. There's not a lot of kits with this surface texture. It's really a bad idea to have done it. It's so when I'm sanding my filled areas, I'm getting a smooth surface, and that was sort of where I was getting up to at this point. So now I've got smooth and textured, and I know that when I get to the painting, it's going to look a little bit odd. Am I happy with accepting that? And so far I'm not. Okay, next level is I need to sort of softly sand all areas of this aircraft. But am I really prepared to sand the entire aircraft around all of the, and I started doing that, around all of the cowlings, and that sort of just knocked the energy out of me having to sand down an entire aircraft. I mean, it's great on an easy part, quite easy to do that. So I may or may not get back to this, I'm not sure. It feels bad to have sort of abandoned it after so much work has been put in. And it is quite a nice size model, it's a nice aircraft. This, however, is one of those that shortly after getting it, I was just I was upset. Now I don't research the kits that I buy because of the way that I obtain them. I'm sort of just very random about it. And it's okay because I learn about certain kits. This is a Revell. It's boxed in a Revell box. And there are Revells which are absolutely awful. Now this kit is sort of like designed for a kid. And if that's its purpose, then it's okay because it allows a kid to achieve a ship build without the ridiculous amount of stuff that you need to glue on. So this has got so much of it already done, and the parts that were left over, the parts that you still need to put on, are somewhat minimal. So I'm pondering this one. This is the Missouri. I'm pondering whether it is what I want to do and just do a semi-simplistic build. But it is one of those that sort of disappointed me. This one is one of those that I got from a swap meet, supplied just as is. The guy had started it and then abandoned it. And if you look under there, I think, I don't know if that's the reason they did, but what they have done is glued the deck on, and the deck fits over sort of like that. It's got edges around it, and then it has to fit onto the hole. Now, the reason I decided to mention this one is not just because it's another one that I'm leaving aside till one day I do a diorama maybe, where I'm okay to have a semi-weathered or worn old boat in the background, or whatever I decide to do with it. And it's not that, it's not like it's actually visible, but there are other glue marks and there are other areas which are not up to standard. But it's not something that'll get thrown out. My point is that that's a little bit of a tip there. And this can happen on aircraft or tanks or anything where you're fitting a part on and you're not quite paying attention to the area which might be not fitting correctly because you're looking at it from the top. Oh, looks great. Yes, it fits on. What should have happened here is that you realize that the hole might have changed shape slightly after it was cooling down. Not sure. And you could put pieces of sprue inside to just adjust the sides out a little bit so that when you fit that deck on, it fits perfectly. I suspect that's exactly what's happened. The after cooling, it's changed shape slightly a little bit in. I was pondering cutting it off, but it's not that important to me. If I wanted to do a perfect build, I'd go and get a new one to start with. But that's quite good as a diorama upcoming at some point. This one is quite an interesting one. I thought I'd show you this. This is terrible box art though. I mean, Hasegawa's not too bad, but that's a very unappealing. I mean, I guess that's the way the aircraft was. What I mean by that is that olive drab of the early Army Dauntlesses. But anyway, the interesting thing about this one, so I've cut off all surfaces. And this is going to be a Dauntless as they lifted out of Lake Michigan. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen those pictures of the Lake Michigan aircraft. As they bring them up with the crane to the dock side, and all of the control surfaces are so deteriorated and worn. There's basically just a framework with sometimes a bit of dripping remains of covering or whatever. So this one is intended to be a very, very severely weathered and severely deteriorated Dauntless as being lifted out of Lake Michigan. What I need to do there is build the frameworks of moving surfaces, and I don't even want the frameworks to be in perfect condition. They must be almost slightly slightly bent in some cases, maybe a little bit damaged. Very interesting build there. This one, another Dauntless, but it's got the dive brakes in photo etch, which I now can't lift very easily. They are so thin. It's got the very nice dive brakes, which I think will make a very, very nice aircraft to put alongside the absolutely weathered, damaged one. Box art. Now, so obviously I mentioned Tamiya is so great. The old Airfix Roycross was great, and then some weird legal aspect came in that you have to show exactly what people are getting, so they had to change their box art to show that exactly what you're getting is that, which is very odd to me, because I mean, what do you think you're getting inside the box? If I have no idea what led to legal actions that caused the model manufacturers to change this, but nevertheless, so they had this phase there with this background, and at first I thought, yeah, it looked quite interesting. You know, it gives this technical side to it. Looks like the design and the drafting of these aircraft plans, except they're not the aircraft plans, and they were the same for everything. How nice would it have been if they'd used some blueprint? And I don't know if these only became available later. I don't think it was out of Airfix's reach to obtain a reprint of some part of the blueprint that showed something more relevant to the aircraft. Some nice 3-view diagram of each of the aircraft. This was a weird phase that aircraft went that Airfix went through, compared to the much better box art. Now I still get enjoyment out of building a Series 1 Airfix as much as I get out of building a 2023, 2024 Tamiya motorbike release, which is absolutely top of the range, to really, time-wise difference from when these kits were designed, 50 years difference. I still love these. And my first build, my first Airfix aircraft that I was buying as a kid, as a 6-year-old, were these, and I absolutely loved these Airfix bubble packs. To this day, I think they are one of the best packagings for models ever. It was so nice to be able to see the instructions, see what you had to do, see the color schemes. This one's a little bit faded, but a nice box art, and see the parts that you were going to get. And oftentimes the decals were visible as well. This one's been put in wrong way around. So my first one was the Wildcat, and I can remember building that as a 6-year-old, probably in an hour or two, using probably, well, I don't know, they didn't supply those little glues in those. Maybe I got one of those Britfix glues, can't remember, but I must have squeezed out way too much, and fingerprints and glue mess everywhere, canopy absolutely destroyed with glue, and yet totally happy. Didn't even know how decals worked. That was something that only got looked at afterwards. I was just totally happy with this this model that I'd bought, and so probably progressed much in the same light for the next few years of my modeling, gradually improving a little bit each time, a little bit less glue mess. I was building without paint and minimal tools for about 7 years, until sort of heading towards high school. I mean, at first, 0 tools, just breaking the pieces off the sprue and gluing them. And in some cases, the places where you broke them off or ejector pin marks would stop the two parts of something getting together, and you just wrangled it till they got together. And if you had gaps, tough luck. And slowly you sort of collected a one tool here, one tool there. I mean, I don't think I had clippers for 5 years. And I'm sure that the knife that I would have used would, they would have been nothing compared to the modeling knives of today. Ejector pin marks. Now, I don't have the old Tiger Moth here. It's somewhere inside. This new Tiger Moth is totally redone. Very, very nice. The old one has got the worst ejector pin marks that I've ever seen on an aircraft, but it changed over the years. So initially, maybe not as bad as their molds, 5 years later, 10 years later, their molds must have picked up one hell of a beating, because later on you could see that the wings, because the ejector pins are just right in the middle of the wing on the lower surface, the patching up of the mold from which they were making these sprues looks like awful stuff happened there, because the underside of those yellow Tiger Moths on the wings has just got the worst ejector pin marks. I mean, these were so much better, and I don't think they're that much different in age, but anyway. Ejector pin marks will always remain an issue for us to look at. So here, speaking about being able to build and enjoy different era models. So I mean, I like both of these Beauforts. This is an absolutely simple kit, antique, and this is very, very new and top-notch. And I can still go and build this one because my expectation is in accordance with what you're getting in the box. But why even build this one? Why not build this one? Well, this is a fast build. You can practice certain things on it. You're not being too fussy with yourself on that. That's a more serious build. You don't want to mess things up. Well, not that I want to mess things up with this one either. But when I've built the two, then I can put them next to each other and see how much we've developed in 50 years of modeling. I don't know what the date of this one is. I looked for a date, I couldn't see it. Even this old Novo kit. Martin Baltimore. I'll see what I can do with that. Same sort of thing. Very old, but I'm totally okay with building that sort of thing. Building multiple kits at once, one of the reasons, it's not the main reason, I just like to work on many things at once, but it does allow me to do batch painting. So if I'm going to be mixing up a particular color and I'm going to be getting the airbrush all dirty for that, well, I might as well have a number of the things ready that I want to do, matte black or silver or whatever the case was. I quite like batch painting. You progress that model a little bit while actually working on this one, because all you were doing was bringing a couple more parts to paint. I think, speaking about those tools, I'm trying to think. By the age of 16, yeah, I'd say by the age of 16, I only had about maybe 5 tools. I had a file that I'd found. I didn't know that needle files existed. Got a needle. It wasn't this, obviously, but I got a needle file, one file, one modeling knife, probably a cheap one, probably not even an X-Acto. I was still learning to use sandpaper. I can't remember exactly when my first bits of sandpaper came in. And gradually I started learning to use that efficiently and correctly. I had my bit of turpentine for brush cleaning eventually when I started with the paints. Tweezers, which I didn't actually end up using that much. But this has ended up being one of my primary tools ever. You get your various grades of sandpaper, cut them up into hand-sized squares, and that is what I do so much of my work with. When I started using paints, because I had to buy the kits with my pocket money, and basically it was, do you buy a kit or do you buy extras like a paint? And I always preferred to get the kit. So until I was earning more, which was only after 18, the paints which I got were from other people. Their kid isn't using it anymore. Here, have a couple of paints. So I got the weirdest collection of colors, and all in all, I only had about 10. I had like a gloss green, a gloss orange, a gloss brown, gloss black, silver, a dried out red. Some of them were old Pactra paints as well. And then, of course, in working life, you gradually start being able to afford and collect more things. And it's so different from now. You know, I sort of, the kids now don't really build models. They don't have an interest. I mean, here and there's a kid, but you know, compared to us growing up, I don't know why that is. I mean, you can argue, yeah, computers are so much of an attraction. The internet is so much of an attraction. Sure, but they could do both. They could be playing their computer games, but also have an interest in assembly and machinery, aircraft, and so on. But that appears not to be the case. You know, with all of our building of all of the stuff that we build, how much knowledge have we not gained on World War II, World War I, various aspects of history, the technical knowledge of how aircraft work, what machinery is inside a tank. There's just so many aspects that the modeling hobby has benefited us. And we live in an internet age now where that aspect helps us as well. We've got so many people putting up builds. We've got so many reference to museum